back to work on the NASCAR swap Miata build, and we finally got just about all the pieces, with the exception of a couple that should be here in a couple of days, to complete this thing, get it up and running. And I am very eager to do that. I'm excited to start driving this car. There's a lot of events that I want to do with this car, and obviously that requires it being done. So get to hustling and see if we can't get this thing put together and ideally fired up for the first time here very soon. So that's basically that. I'm just gonna get to work, start hustling, start knocking out these projects. Now, the first thing I gotta do, get this monkey off my back, kind of need it to be done to be able to put the rest of the stuff in, is the dang forks. Without the forks in here, we can't put the seat. Without the seat, we can't put the steering column, the pedals, a lot of that stuff. And it shouldn't take too long to knock out the forks. It's one of those projects. I don't know why I've been putting it off, and it's time again to get the monkey off my back, stop putting it off, and start putting it on, put it together, right? Does that sound good? So that's where I'm gonna start today. One of many projects that I'd like to get done in this one, so I'm gonna hop, skip, and jump to it. So there's always some projects when it comes to building a car, but especially this car. There's quite a few of them because it's not really a roadmap for the build we're doing, all the chassis stuff. The engine swap itself is very different than just a standard engine swap. There's a lot of unknowns is my point. And this is one of the biggest unknowns for me on doing the fours, is building a structure for the perimeter for the fours to attach to, because, you know, the transmission tunnel that I built it's not just a straight line, because it can't be, because we needed enough room inside the cockpit of the car, but also enough room underneath in the transmission tunnel, and that required making it an oddball shape. And so coming up with a way to basically make a perimeter structure for the floors to mount to was something that I had chewed on quite a bit. And speaking of, one thing you got to be careful with when TIG welding is shocking yourself, and I gave myself a good one. There's nothing like, just zapping yourself with however many amps of electricity, but, it's part of it, part of the job. Part of fabricating is you're going to burn yourself probably quite a bit, at least I do, and you're definitely probably going to shock yourself a few times, but yeah, I guess you kind of get used to it. I just wasn't expecting that one, but yeah, basically, back to the point, getting all this structure done is something that I've been dreading, and so once we get the perimeter of this done, it's kind of easy street from there. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't be jinxing myself, but hopefully easy street from there, more or less. This is the part where we've got to attach back to unevenness. That's something with fabrication. If I can build something from start to finish, all new, you have a lot more leeway on the design and how you want to do it, where you want to go. But if you're attaching to, something that I already built, but also the factory car, we got a lot less wiggle room for how we can do this. But once we get all this in, this is kind of our base, then it's just simple panels that go to that. We're basically taking non-uniform shapes and sizes and different heights and all of that, and trying to convert it to a box that's just a a box. It's simple. So speaking of, another thing that, can be a little bit of a struggle bus is welding to the old material on the chassis. So, cars have, where the panels overlap, they have seam sealer. And when you try to weld on that seam sealer, it becomes like a little firework. It just likes to just pop and spit. It's not a good time. So trying to clean up the seam sealer, and I was trying to be lazy because I'm not a big fan of drilling out spot welds, but this is one of the parts that I had not been looking forward to, is trying to weld over this old pinch weld, basically. And so we just got to do it. Got to knuckle up and drill out a gajillion spot welds, get this extra layer off, because that was attaching to the floor that's no longer there. And then we can have a nice, relatively clean, relatively flat surface to weld our new structure to. So now that that's off, I will say I am pretty relieved, because that was the part I kept looking at every time I was thinking about doing this project and thinking, I don't know, man. I don't know how I'm going to attach to that in a clean, uniform way. So basically got to make a bunch more of these little 90-degree angle dealios. Obviously, I would make them longer, especially the rocker side ones, because that one is pretty much a straight line. However, I don't have a press brake or any sort of metal brake, to bend anything longer than like 20 inches. So yeah, that was the other hang up on me doing this project, was not having any way to bend really long pieces and not wanting to do overlapping or multiple pieces, but that's what we're doing. Sometimes you got to just do it the way you can do it. And that way you just do it, because otherwise I'm just going to stare at this project until I maybe buy the tool, which, would have been nice, but getting it done some which way that's pretty decent is better than not getting it done the perfect way you wanted to get it done, if that makes sense. So yeah, basically we just got to finish making these pieces, get them all welded in, and then we have the structure to then make the floor too. There's a lot of multi-step process, and man, I do have a bad habit of TIG welding stuff that I could MIG weld, and especially in this case because it's thin material, and I'm gonna see it. So I'm a big interior guy, right? The outside of my car can look a little mismatched or whatever, but the interior is where I'm at when I'm driving the car, when I'm interacting with it. I want the interior to look good, and if I have some wacky thick MIG welds where these mount to the rocker or whatever, I'm gonna see that every time I'm sitting in the car. It's gonna bother me. So yeah, I decided to TIG weld at least a bit of it, at least all the stuff that's gonna be really visible and would look really goofy if we did this thick MIG weld bead on it, and that way we don't have to grind it back down. Which, speaking of, this is an old second layer of steel that I couldn't get off because it was so mangled that I couldn't drill out the spot welds, so we had to grind that down. And that would be my normal MO for that kind of stuff, like a second layer of metal is just grind it down, and I can promise you drilling out the spot welds is way better than trying to grind that much material away. So we made the right call in drilling out the spot welds, and definitely confirmed it by having to try to just grind that one down. But we're chugging. I'm rambling a little bit, but these projects, they do that to me. We're just finishing up the main perimeter. We got the back pieces, which were pretty tricky, and the side pieces, which were tricky. It was all kind of tricky. Whew, well, it may not seem like that much, but this is the part that I have been putting off this project for, was figuring out how I was going to do this without a wide press brake. Or non-press brake, a finger brake. I need like a standard brake. I really need to get one. It's one of those tools I've known I needed for a long time, and I just keep putting it off, and it would have made this a lot easier because I could have done each side in one piece. But that said, they split at this bar, so it's fine. And then, yeah, I had to get a little creative back here. This is the part I was really dreading, is meeting up at the back. This side, I had a lot cleaner face to meet up, so that worked out real nice there. But this side, again, I had to get a little creative, add another piece, but that's okay, because the passenger side, the seat can be a little more forward. My side, driver's side, it needs to be as far back as possible, which is what we are doing. What we're doing this for, to drop the seat down. So, yeah, we got to do the last piece. I don't want to say last. The next piece of this is the front. And I've debated several ways to do this because it's kind of the same problem we had at the back here. Just we don't have a great spot to meet up. And then we've got this little pocket to figure out. But I think I've devised a plan that will work and make the most sense for both sides. It's going to be a little more elaborate of a piece for us to make, but I think it'll be worth it. Whew, you are coated. Oh man, this is my nice one. Yeah, I've got a plan. And so, assuming this goes well, probably go ahead and weld. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, just jibber jabbering. I'm gonna get back to it. Gosh, you are freaking caked. It's like grinder sparks don't mix well with glass. I don't get it. I'm a really big fan of bending stuff because you make it in one piece instead of multiple pieces. But the downside to bending stuff is it is the critical part. So I actually bent up a little bend guide so that way I would get this right without having to do all the math to do it theoretically and not mess this piece up at the finish line, at the 10-yard line or whatever they say. Yeah, I don't know. Give me another analogy. But yeah, that's the worst thing about bending is you can mess it up after you did all the other work. But that's what I'm doing. Not to sound like a complainer, but one other thing we're limited on when it comes to the size of things is the bead roller. I got a kind of smaller one. I wasn't sure how much I would use it, and I wanted to bead roll this false floor panel like the rest of the panels in the car, but I couldn't because it would be, the size would be too much. I mean, actually, this one might have made it. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't want to spend much time bead rolling it before the bend, if I'm being truly honest with myself. But point is, the bead rolling it in a straight line, we're able to do that after the fact. So not my favorite way to do it, but it's a way to do it, right? And the bead rolling is not just an aesthetic thing, right? It is a functional aspect of being able to, it makes it more rigid and less floppy. Another thing, wow, sounds like I'm complaining about my tools, and I have tools that I never could have imagined having. The plasma cutter being too the small frame size, I ran into the clamps and almost messed this piece up, but luckily it was salvageable and we got our bend guide already. But one thing I'm noticing as I'm bending and making this piece is that it's a little thinner of a material than what I've been using for all the other sheet metal that I've done so far. I picked up a 4x4 sheet of it recently and I kind of took a swing on what gauge thickness it was, and clearly it was a swing and a miss because this is noticeably thinner, at least a step thinner. But it's sheet metal for the structure. It should be okay. We'll kind of have to see how this panel shakes out once we get it all tacked in here and kind of see what its stiffness is like, and if we're good, because we need to be good because that's the material that I got to do the rest of this. So fingers crossed. The only thing too is that it doesn't have the same sheen as like the tunnel sheet metal. Just admittedly kind of bothering me, but what can you do? All right. Well, I realized on this one that the lines almost perfectly matched up with like the factory structure. So on this one, I marked them out to line up with the factory structure. Roughly. I'm not too worried about it. You can see that one's a little bit off, but I don't know. It's kind of fun. I could not remember exactly what gauge I had been using, and this is slightly thinner than the other stuff. Now, that being said, I am an opposite weight weenie, right? This is an old BMX term from when I used to ride. There's people who call them weight weenies. They have like titanium spokes and titanium axles and, shaving every few ounces. And I've always been the opposite. I've always preferred to build things robust. And the same with cars. I err on the side of it being strong, not light. And that is something I've had to actively fight myself on with this car, because one of my biggest goals is to not make it a dang porker. Because when I built it the first time, I had this misconception that, it's a Miata. No matter what, it's gonna be light. Miatas are light. And I ended up with a 2,500 pound Miata. That's without me in it. 2,530 to be exact. So I'm trying this time. And maybe it works out that the material's a little thinner. I'm gonna cut a 4 and bead roll it, and then see how I feel about it structurally. You know what I mean? I'm just worried it'll be a little too thin for how we're setting this up, but I don't know. Because we still got to add some structure on the bottom. But you can see I took my one large template since we did this and cut it down. So I'm going to be adding probably something here and then tie it into this. Maybe probably do that. But because it can't really get to the frame rail or the rocker. And then we've got to do structure for the seat to bolt to. So there's going to be overall a lot of structure in here once we're all said and done. But anyway, we need to get those cut out, and I need to braze all this at the tunnel, and then the rest will get welded. I'm going to TIG weld this, MIG weld the front of this end, TIG weld the side, braze that. It's going to be multiple different types of welding just because, I want it to look nice, but I also don't want to spend too much time. It's that 80-20 rule, 75-25. That's what I call it. Where I'd have to spend 75% more time to TIG weld it to get 25% more result. Whereas we're going to do a little bit of a mixo-macho in between where we TIG weld the parts where it's going to be kind of ugly to have a big, thick MIG weld. And then we'll MIG weld the parts where it doesn't really matter. Might actually MIG weld those corners in. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think I'm going to do that first. Get that out of the way. And then we'll start worrying about cutting the floors. Maybe I'll go ahead and add those bars in. Those extra bars. Well, I need material. Yeah, we'll be all right. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm just going to keep chucking. That's what I'm going to do. Okay? Does that sound okay? Is that okay with you? Oh, let's get back to work. Well, I definitely do it to myself, so I don't have anyone to blame but myself. But yeah, I signed myself up for a lot of TIG welding on this one. And like I said, I want to do it the easy, quick way. MIG welding is so much faster, especially when working in a chassis like this. Trying to arrange yourself in here in a jungle gym with the pedal, the torch, the rod, and get into a position where you can actually see what you're doing, because you need to be able to see what you're doing, because you gotta, be very precise. It's tricky. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it can be tricky, and which thus makes it time consuming. So it'd be a lot faster to MIG weld this, but I want it to look nice, right? We're on the home stretch for this Ford transmission tunnel, rebuilding the whole center of the car extravaganza, and why get lazy now? That's the way I see it. So we're using silicon bronze for the tunnel side, which is what we're doing right now. Now, the interesting thing about silicon bronze, the cool thing, is that you're kind of welding. So normally when you weld, you're melting the two base materials and you're adding filler wire, which is the same as the base materials. But in this case, the silicon bronze is not the same as the base materials, and it melts at a lower temperature. So we're able to weld without really melting the base material. So it allows us to glue these together, except with metal, but without putting a ton of heat into them, which we don't want to put a ton of heat into them because, we got chromoly under there and yada yada. Now, on the rocker panel side, we've got to do normal TIG welding, but of course, even after drilling out those spot welds and grinding and wire wheeling, there's still seam sealer trying to ruin my party, and also stuff inside the rocker. That's the thing with welding on an old dirty car is, there's grease and grime and stuff just finds its way into every crack and crevice, and then when you heat up those cracks and crevices, it that stuff likes to burn off, and I'm not sure if it's toxic, but I'm sure it's not good to breathe it in, and I've been breathing in stuff that I'm burning off for a long time, so I should probably try to avoid that, basically. So I ended up having to stitch weld the outside one because it just kept getting into seam sealer and melting and burning stuff off. It was not a good time. Now, this is kind of another part where going into it, I really wasn't sure exactly how I was going to finish this out, and that is the structure underneath the floor. The point of this whole project was to lower the floor, well, one, to fix the torn up floors and the ripped up, destroyed frame rails, but number two, it's to basically allow us to drop the floor down an inch because, headroom's at a premium, and I always want more headroom, and Miatas are not known for having a ton of headroom. So dropping the floors down an inch, making a simpler, better floor structure, yada yada. But the problem is our frame rails are now where the bottom of the old ones were, but that doesn't line up with where the rockers are, and there's just a lot of things that we need to tie together that don't really want to be tied together. They're just kind of all in different planes and spaces, so it's a little bit tricky, but I figured out a way to kind of get from A to B on this front bar, which this bar is just kind of a structural tie-in, but again, we also still have to mount seats, and mounting the seats is kind of important, because that's how I'm sitting in the car and being secured to the car. So I definitely don't want to skimp out on this. And this is the constant battle with myself of trying to make it strong, but also light. And I was going to go on the light route, but then I realized, you know what? This is, again, the seat. This is how I'm being held into the car. And if I ever were to crash this thing, which I hopefully won't do, hard enough for it to matter, point is, I'd like to be confident that what's holding the seat in is going to hold me in. So we're going to make these stout, but, still try to keep it light. So I ended up making them out of 1/8-inch thick wall, 1x2 squared or rectangular tubing, which is the same as the center frame rail. So point is, they're going to be plenty stout. Now, one of the things that bothered me about how I was going to do this was not having an end attachment point besides our angle floor holder upper deals. And I was a little worried about it at first, but the run on these is so short that them being welded the way they are to the chassis, and I'm welding them in hot. Believe me, I'm cranking the vibe, girl, on this, on the handbridge on this, and burning them in good, making sure we've got good solid penetration. And these things ain't going nowhere. I put my life on it, which is kind of what I'm going to do, I guess, by, is the car is going to be where I'm sitting. So basically, I've just got to get these all clamped in roughly where they need to be and weld them in. Now, the other thing I was going back and forth on with this is making or buying or figuring out seat mounts first, so then I could figure out the structure and maybe putting the floors in and then putting these up on the bottom, but then I can't weld them in all the way. And that's one of the struggles with projects like this, is that order of operations. When do you want to do what? We need the floors in to determine exactly where the seat's going to go, which would determine where the seat rail would go. But once we put the floors in, we can't weld the top of these. So it gets a little tricky, but I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. Like, we got just a nice structure. It's really filled in the structural department of things. Now we just get to do the sheet metal department of things once we finish welding. And when you have this much welding to do, you're bound to forget something. And I completely forgot to weld the outside of these, little false floor foot well sections. I just slipped my mind. I thought I had done it, but I had not done it, as it turns out. And admittedly, I had a bit of an idea where, since the silicon bronze melts at a lower temperature, we don't have to get the rockers as hot, so we can fill in the stitches between the stitch welds with stitch brazing. And, I don't know, maybe it would look kind of cool to have the back and forth pattern. It's silly. And also though, it's sealing them, right? Like, this has to get sealed one way or another. So we're sealing them with the silicon bronze, which is then also adding structural support, right? So that's a pretty good case, right? Maybe I just went a little braze crazy because I was having fun brazing and it was looking good, and I just wanted to keep doing it. But now I got to do the less than stellarly fun part of doing all the welding underneath. And again, we're welding this stuff in hot, so there's a bit of welding. We'll get it done though. Oh, well, I think my neck is probably permanently kinked from this project, but just weld upside down. But yeah, we officially have all of our floor structure in. I'm pretty happy with it. That was not really what I was planning to do initially, but I think it worked out well. One area I did screw up, and I'm man enough to admit it. This was supposed to be this. At least I did the same on both sides. I was thinking the longer one went here because it seemed like it'd be a longer stretch, but it was the longer one here. But that's okay, it's not a big deal. But yeah, structure is done, solid. Oh, it's hot. ain't going nowhere, which is good. It's only probably like 7 pounds between all of them. And, you know, I'm like, this is where I'm gonna sit. So I'm gonna be attached to the car. It's important, don't wanna skimp there. So, yeah. Pretty pleased with that. Kind of crazy to see. I haven't really taken much of a look at it from under here besides the walls welding, you know. But it's all welded down here. We got to move back up top and make our final piece of the puzzle. Drop the floors in. I have changed my mind. I'm not going to MIG weld it. The final four panels, just because it's going to make a mess. I'm going to stitch braze it and then seal it. I think that's my plan right now. Get with me in an hour or so when I'm done making these panels. Well, one of the many times where it'd be nice to have a larger plasma table and I guess bead roller, but that's something that's a problem for down the road. Is this? We're cutting out these floors, but they're a pretty simple shape. They're a pretty simple structure. It's not that big of a deal. It's got a jigsaw it by hand, you know. We're doing it by hand. It ain't no big thing. You get spoiled sometimes by the seeing sizzles and the, you know, all these advanced tools that it seems impossible or not ideal to have to do things a different way, but you know. So just like the footwell pieces, well, I guess these it's not just an excuse. These definitely would not fit to do, you know, like a full perimeter. If I had this my way, if I had a bead roller large enough to do this panel any way I wanted, I would kind of recess it around all the structure, but I don't. And I mean, I'm lucky to have a bead roller at all. Didn't have one for a very long time, so basically just got to do the old line method, you know. It'll be good enough. I mean, it matches the false fours that I was maybe lazy when I did them that way. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, you know, measure it. But I'm pretty sure they would have fit, actually, now that I'm thinking back on it. But that's okay. So basically, just came up with a rough little pattern to bead roll into both four panels. So that way it's kind of similar to what we had going on. But also we can't bead roll the whole length of it because what'll happen is then it'll interfere with the frame structure underneath. So that's kind of the point of where this stuff is. You know what I mean? Also, it's real satisfying to see it once you take all the marker off. It looks a lot less messy. Remember how I told you to check back in with me in an hour or two or however long it takes to make these panels? Well, this is your check-in, and yeah, as it turns out, we're not doing that either. We're definitely not MIG welding, not stitch brazing. I decided to go ahead and just rivet them in. I feel like I've done this before on things, and it feels like the me taking the easy way out. But in this case, it's that, remember how I mentioned that sheen, how the shine on this is different? Part of me wants to, if possible, clear coat the tunnel and things when I paint the car and the chassis inevitably. But these look different. They don't look great. So maybe I might want to pull them back out and paint them. And also I might have to modify the structure underneath. I might have to make some modifications. So maybe or not maybe. Yes, it is. You know, there's a purpose, right? There's a method to the laziness. If we rivet them in, they're solid, but also we have the ability to later take them back out and do something. But this is the thing, is as I've learned and done more and more projects, you know, it's like there's certain things I just can't leave alone. So drilling these holes out, it leaves a bunch of burrs, and then it's going to make the floor sit down uneven. So I had to go back and deburr all these gajillion holes. You know, I just can't not do it. But then you're like, man, it takes so much time. But we're chugging. first time in a long time, the Miata is officially no longer a Fred Flintstone mobile. I'm just gonna sit like this. Honestly, if I could sit this low, I would. It'd be so nice. I could actually have enough room for my helmet, but this would be if I had like no seat. I'm gonna put the seat in here and see how it is. But yeah, the heel plate's good, especially once we're up a little bit higher. This is kind of awkward. Yeah. Right now it's a little high, but I mean, we're not literally sitting on the floor. This is cool. It feels good. It feels good to have this part done. And they are solid. I mean, they're rock solid. There ain't no flex. With no flex zone. Hold on, I'm gonna grab this seat. Oh yeah, see the heel plate's perfect now. I did all this for 1 inch. I mean, granted, the seat is up against or on the blanket. Pretty comfortable though. Probably have to have my feet a little further back than I'd like just to get full pedal travel, but we'll see. Well, now that we finally have the dang fours in, I mean, the whole center of the car completed. What a feeling. Let me tell you, after seeing this thing, you know, seeing the ground through it for so long, it feels really good. But more importantly than it feeling good is the fact that now we know exactly where our seat's going to be. I am going to make my own mounts, most likely. Yeah, I don't know. A little bit of breaking the 75-25 or the 25 side of it. But I just would really like to make my own mount, and it'll be easier to kind of fit them just right than doing some off-the-shelf mounts and probably having to modify them. Plus, I want to do some cool billet mounts. It'll be a fun project. Hopefully, it shouldn't take too long. Speaking of that, though, now that we have the fours in, we can put everything else in. Like, right, or yeah, the fours in the seat, mainly. The seat, but the fours had to be, you know what I'm saying. All these things that we have, but we haven't been able to place because we didn't know where the seat was going to be and all of that. And we have a very exciting tool for that. But on a side note, also very exciting, I got my exhaust flanges finally. So we can start building our headers, which is kind of the last big thing we need to try to fire this thing up. I'm going to buy a card from a buddy of mine who has this same motor in a drift car. Fuel tank's ordered. Should be here really any time now. And yeah, we have lines, fittings. This is like one other thing, but whatever it is, I ordered it. So we should have, ooh, I hear UPS or FedEx. That might be the fuel tank. That would be crazy if that's what's showing up right now. But yeah, we have all the things that we need to fire it up, or will have in a few days once plus doing the headers. But anyway, about this tool. So I have a long list of tools that I'd like to get always. Top of my list, you know, like a more pro level press brake for more repeatable bends. Ideally also, but space, a big finger brake for doing like this kind of project. And then a like 4x4 plasma table. So we could, all those things would have been so helpful with this project. Hold on, someone's here. Okay, that is pretty hilarious. That's gotta be what's in these boxes. That is so funny. Wow. I literally just talking about it. But in the meantime, the tool. So this tool would have helped with, well, all this, but also with all those tools. Does that make sense? Like it's a tool for all the tools. It's the tool's favorite. It's your tool's favorite tool. So this is a 3D scanner from, well, Shining 3D. It's the Einscan Regal Lite. Now, this is kind of a big deal because I've been looking for a 3D scanner for a while, and I came across them. They offered to work with me on trying one, and there was a couple of things that I was pretty set on getting. Number one, I wanted a standalone unit. So this is wireless. There's batteries in it. We got batteries here. We can do all of our scanning directly with this. No attaching it to a computer. We can and do post-processing. We can use it with the computer if we want, but we don't have to. Whereas a lot of the more budget-friendly ones, it's just the scanner part, and then the computer is the brains. So you have to have a computer with you at all times, which if we were scanning parts right here, might not be a big deal, right? But if we're doing what I've done as my test scans and scanning, you know, a whole car, or the entire engine bay of the car, the entire interior of the car, that gets a lot more difficult. So that was probably my biggest thing that I wanted in a scanner. But number two is we have these reflective dots, reference markers that we can use when scanning and scan in one mode, right, with these. Which there's times where we're going to probably want or need to use these, but we don't have to. We can scan just natively with no, no coding, no nothing. Obviously, we can probably get better results with these or with coding, but I tested it by just rough scanning the engine bay and the interior of the car before doing the floors, and it came out really well. And the cool thing about this is that it's not just about getting, precise things or whatever. There's just a lot of things where it's elaborate and we might need, if we could just scan it, it would save a lot of time measuring, but also it would make it a lot easier to try out different things. Like, for example, the fuel tank, which is what I'm pretty sure is in that large box. Back here, it's going to be kind of tough to figure out exactly how and where to put that. On that note, the point of telling you about this is the fact that we're going to scan scratch noise. Slight change of plans. I'm too excited to try to get this fitted because this is one of the very few things we need to get this thing running. So if we can get this mounted, situated, ready to rock and rumble, then we are much closer to running it. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to use a scanner for that because that's why. Side note, also what I got here. Sorry, I'm all over the place. This is my new fuel cell bladder tank. This needs to go in a metal box, right? But I want to build my own metal box that's mounted to the chassis, basically. So that's why I went with this route. Not to mention it's meant for carbureted setup, which is obviously what we have. So we got that. This is, again, I've been pulling my hair out trying to figure out fuel tank size, mounting location, all these things. And I just did some more hair pulling out, and I think I finally figured out a plan. But also, this one's pretty exciting. Pretty sure it's going to work. Should work. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll see what we can come up with to put the two together. Basically make a mount for this that's also a case, more or less. So, jibber jabber. A lot of it. Back to it. Part of why this fuel tank mounting situation has been such a struggle is upside to Miata, lightweight, because it's small. But downside to Miata is because it's small, and there's not a lot of places to put stuff, and especially when you start adding things in like a quick change differential, which is giant in any car. There's just not a lot of places to put the fuel tank, and where I'd like to put it for weight is there's a lot of stuff in the way, including this structure area here. Now, this already had to be cut for the cage to go in, so it's not doing an insane amount right now. So I thought we might as well at least cut it out of the way. We can rebuild it with a bar. It'll be stronger, and it'll, give us some more clearance. Not just for the fuel tank, because we may or may not end up putting it where that becomes a problem, but also just other things, and hopefully make it a little bit easier to build our firewall structure situation. That is one thing I keep saying. We got through the last thing that I was dreading, but that is one thing I'm dreading, is this rear firewall situation, and it is very determined by where we put the fuel tank. All right, well, this has been a bit of a struggle to decide on. It's not that we don't have options, it's just what option do we want to go with, right? So I'm leaning towards right back here. I would love it to be lower, but there's not really any room to go lower. I don't want it being this far back. I don't even love it being behind the rear axle. I've talked many times about how I like to keep my cars balanced, where you have as much weight basically at the axle center line or forward or back from the front and rear. So the car is balanced. Think about like spinning around an office chair, and if you tuck your arms in real tight, you spin fast, stick them out, you spin slow. You have that inertia of the weight when you have weight far back. More so in the rear. Having weight past the front axle isn't that big of a deal because you're pivoting around the front axle. But in the rear, that's more weight you've got to get swinging and slowed down. And so I like to keep weight. I'll sacrifice a little bit of rear bias, which means inevitably sacrificing some grip in order to keep that snap, because transitions are everything in comp drifting. Having a little less grip, but a car that transitions fast and predictably is more important. Now, I say all that and I'm about to break my own rule, but factory, there was a battery back here, back in this corner, which was more weight than this tank with the enclosure we're going to make with all the fuel in it, right? It's like a 50-pound battery. But probably similar weight. So it's not the end of the world to put it back here. Not to mention, because we're doing front radiator, we're gonna have some more weight in the front. Back here it offsets the driver, me. So I think I'm gonna go for it. It also makes the mounting situation easiest, and the thing is, if we put it anywhere forward up here, we've got to figure out something for a fill cap unless we have it just kind of dangling back here. But then it has to go, you know, 2 inches higher, which I also don't love. So if we put it like here, kind of checks all the boxes, I think. And part of my decision to do it this way is the fact that I have this leftover piece from doing the front tube structure that we can mount in here, something like that. And it also makes it simpler because we can install the tank from the top, I think. Actually, it might be a little tight. I don't know, we'll figure that part out. We gotta get the mount done though, so I think I'm gonna try to, since this was a scrap piece anyway, it always makes decisions easier if I can use a scrap piece, right? It feels like a free piece. I'm not having to make the piece to make it work. Diagonal there. Yeah, basically I'm gonna try to cut this thing up. Sound good? I'm good with it, I'm going for it. The other last thing is that if we want to install a larger tank later from this location, you know, we can do so. You know, with roughly the same mount infrastructure, so. It's another checkbox. Now let's do it. Fortunately, what I use for a notcher is my belt grinder with these different size rollers on it, so I don't have to figure out exactly what the notch needs to be immediately. I can kind of work it in and massage it and massage the other one until I get it to fit in a way that I'm happy with. And got this thing fitting okay. With that one welded in, we definitely need a little more structure than that, but it's just kind of satisfying to use that scrap piece. Not only does it make it easier to try something that you're not sure if you're going to love it or it's going to work because it's a scrap piece anyway, but also it makes it easier to make the decision on how exactly you want to make it, because with fabrication, there's about a gajillion different ways you can do things. So, yeah, anyway, we got that piece, which is just already bent, you know, it was kind of a toss away, and now we're going to try to cope in this diagonal, and same thing, we got to just tap sneak up on it with the notch in until we get it to fit just right. And this one I'm really going for perfection, near perfection, that you're not going to see because I'm going to MIG weld it, but I like that. There we go. Whew. Look at those gaps. And some gaps, boy. even after deciding on the fuel cell mounting location, I have debated a gajillion different ways on how to build this enclosure / mount, because they're kind of gonna, be one and the same, the mount and the enclosure, which is the nice thing about doing this saver cell, and where it has to go in a tank or go in a case, which you can get a pre-made case, but the benefit is we can make the case fit our needs, so that way the case and the mount are one and the same. We don't have to make a mount around the case, if that makes sense. But you know me, and as much as I am the opposite of a weight weenie and bad about saving weight, I do love a good excuse to use some dang dimple dyes. You know what I'm saying? If I can dimple dye something, you best believe I'm probably gonna take the option to dimple dye it. I had loved dimple dyes for so long, and I always thought that I needed some special type of press or something to be able to dimple dye stuff. And then once I figured out that I could just use the press that I have and just get the dyes, I've done a lot of dimple dyeing. If you watch for a while, I dimple dye a lot of things, but it's satisfying, and it's just like bead rolling. It makes the piece more rigid, and it looks cool, and it saves weight. I mean, who's complaining? Not me. Downside though is it does do a little bit of it warps the piece, especially doing 1/8 inch thick aluminum like this. It really likes to warp it, and it warped quite a bit on us, unfortunately. So I'm trying to get the bend as close to 90 as possible, but that's not really possible because the panel's warped a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna have to try our best to massage these flat. I should have done this before I did the 90-degree bend, but basically you just use the bottom side of the dimple die, press against the back side, and then it kind of flattens it out as best we can. We're just gonna have to work it the rest of the way in once we are actually making it. So I was gonna have the dimple dies facing out, but I had given myself an extra 1/4 inch all the way around, and I would prefer the dimple dies facing in, but just for fitment reasons they were gonna face out. But then I realized, I've got this 1/4 inch, I might as well use it and face them in. But then wasn't quite enough, that 1/4 inch, so I ended up having to use these angled brackets, angled pieces on the corners, because there was a little bit of a gap between the corners, because again, this wasn't how I was planning on orienting the dimple dies when I set out to do this. So yeah, we made it work though. Seems like it works. It seems to fit. Now we got to work on the top, and we basically got to make a lid and a way to bolt the lid on. And unfortunately, there's just not enough room on the plasma table to cut the lid or the flange in one piece. So I designed these up in Fusion, and it was a relatively easy thing to design. But yeah, I had to split it into 2 pieces in order to be able to cut it. And of course, if I'm using the CN sizzles, if I'm seeing something, I spent a bunch of time making the Garage Built logo CNC cuttable, and I've got it dialed. So I mean, I got to do it. Just like dimple dyeing, I got to do it. All right, well, I wasn't planning on going all the way with this project, but for starters, look at this. Ready? Oh, it does not get much better than that in terms of fitment. Fits super tight, so that's good. And now we have the other pieces made. Difficulty, this is why I need a large, like full-size plasma table one day, because these pieces aren't even that big, but it's just right over the limit of the footprint we could cut. So I had to do it in 2 pieces. So I'll get these cleaned up, weld them together. Then this will get welded onto the box. This will be our lid. And I need to make a bottom, but that's the simplest part. It's just a square. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, yeah. Let's get this welding. Well, cleaning, then swelding. It's the thing. It's like takes 2 seconds to cut it on the plasma cutter, but then cleaning it all and stuff, that's the time-consuming part. Fortunately, even though we had to make it in 2 pieces, getting the flange stacked onto the box wasn't too bad. Now, again, these panels are a little warpier than I'd like to admit. They got a little bit of a kick drum to them in just about all directions, so, you know, it ain't going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't, you know, it's just the box, right? And, yeah, anyway, this flange, the whole idea of loading it in from the top was one of many ideas, because if we put it further forward, we'd have to load it in from the front. If we put it further back, then we load it in from the top. You know what I mean? It depended on where we put it. So anyway, I came up with this flange idea of just having a nice flange welded on, and then the plate matching that. And so far, I gotta say, it's looking pretty dang snazzy. Now, unfortunately, I didn't nest the pieces well enough to leave myself enough material on the same plate that I cut the lid and flange out of to do the bottom. So, yeah, we got a little bit of a piece with character for the bottom, but it should actually work out just fine. Just got to weld it in, hammer it out, just full throttle, get as much stuff done as we can. And this is a big one. The fuel cell in general, but also building this whole box, like, pretty excited. All right, check it out. Man, I got to say, I'm pretty pleased with that. For not being able to cut this in one piece and, you know, having to do the little angle of the dangle on the outside and using this leftover piece so I didn't have to break into a whole new sheet. All in all, this thing came out pretty freaking good. I mean, we still got the dang moment of truth if it still fits. But I've checked it at every step except for welding the bottom on and this perimeter being fully welded on. But look at this. I still need to clean up the logo a touch, but it goes a little something like that. It's not perfectly lined up. Look at that, dude. That is so cool. This really worked out. You know, yeah, I'm very, very pleased with this. So far, it hasn't fit yet. So I gotta drill the holes to bolt the lid, and then obviously the mounting for mounting it. But big old moment of truth. Let's find out if it fits and it ships. Yeah, it's finally cooled down, I think. Oh, it's a little tight now. Oh, there we go. It's just snug fit. And the pièce de résistance. Boom. Yeah, that's perfect. I'll put some rubber on the bottom of this so it like squishes it down, but I mean, I ain't going nowhere. Well, we gotta put it in the car. See, that's also why I left that open or use that scrap piece, because there's not a structure there anyway. It's like on 3 corners basically. Huh? Wow, that looks sweet. Cool. Well, basically we'll just mount this. I just got to decide if I want to do a little, you know, or just, you know, run it like that, basically bolt it to the tubes. Either way, it's going to be plenty strong. It's not going anywhere. And yeah, now our fuel cell is not only has a home, but it'll, you know, and it'll have a mount. Wow. Take a step back, take a gander. Yeah, I'm super, super pleased with that. Nice tight fit. Just a quick little fuel cell box situation, no big deal. But in overtime on this, because I really wanted to get that done, because I kept scratching my head on how to mount it. Even before I ordered the tank, so it feels really good to finally have figured that out. And yeah, again, the tank was kind of really the last big thing that I was unsure on for getting ready to start it. Obviously, we got to build the headers, but we are chugging, man. We are freaking chugging. I'm stoked. Super. I almost forgot we did the dang force. Been caught up in the surge tank. Fuel's done. Floor's done. Yeah, I've got my flight school got a new plane. All right, well, we finally got a new plane, which I'm pretty excited about because it is a light sport, and it's going to be a lot more similar to the type of plane that I want to get. And I did a fight today, 2 sessions. supposed to solo. Now I'm at like 13 hours. I was at 10. I was going to solo, but then we switched planes because the new plane, which is more like what I want. Anyway, I'm going to go tomorrow early and fly it again. And if I feel comfortable and everything in Arthur says I'm good, I should hopefully be soloing. So I need to call it. So I'm going to do that. But let me know what you guys think of the progress. Like I said, we got a ton of parts and pieces that we needed. We got the floors done. Tank, again, was a huge thing that I've just been dreading this and debating it every which way. And to see I'm sound like a broken record, but I'm just pumped on that. I did modify the steering rack some, but that's irrelevant now. We got the fan thing. We got most of this. We got most of the stuff. We just got to get the carb. We're partying, dude. We're chugging. So anyway, I gotta wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I will see you next time. Probably still keep chugging on this. I don't know. I got some property stuff to do. RX-7, bus. I got stuff every which direction. Maybe I'll eventually make a plane video if I do solo. That's kind of my plan, is wait till I solo. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you next time. All right, that's it. Goodbye. Yeah, my ear off. It's not you, it's me.
Arto Tower, November 6308, holding short off 3 of 9 left, ready for departure.
River 630 runway 9 left, clear for takeoff. Make left close traffic.
Clear for takeoff, runway 9 left, make left close traffic, November 6308. Alright, this is it. We're doing it. Like I've done it so many times before in the simulator.